I started asking myself, wait, what if I just didn't have any triggers?
You said that? You said that?
I said that. I said those words. I said those words. When I asked myself, wait, if I stop making my wife my problem and start making her what she is, my mirror. Because every time something happens inside of me that I'm upset about or angry about or depressed about, that's something going on inside of me. So instead of me teaching her how to avoid my landmines, my emotional landmines, what if I just got rid of my emotional landmines? Then there's nothing for her to step on, and then we could just be cool.
How about that? Catch me outside.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Self-Mastery Sundays, where we are focused on the glue of life, God, love, and you.
Are we, though? I mean...
I didn't even get through the whole thing. This is how we start today. Fuck it. This is how we start today. This is how we start today.
This is what we're focused on.
That's it. I mean, this is how we starting today.
And we're here with your coach,
Steve Bacon, and
the professor
of possibility.
Yeah.
Pop. Which actually makes sense.
B.O.P. holding it down.
But considering the gray hair and all that, calling you Pop would be... calling you Pop would be...
This is where the episode ends, with me stabbing Steve in the neck.
I know people would be like, this... They talking about the God. This is the self-mastery and the glue, the God loving you, and they always at each other. Why? Because God has a sense of humor. That's why. Who do you think invented sense of humor? Get over yourself.
That's a good question.
Really? Really? You know, that's the thing that be bothering me about like
white people.
No.
Or as you like to refer to us as colonizers.
You know, y'all not the problem this time.
Wait.
Listen.
Call the press. Get the media. We not the problem this time.
No, the problem this time is these holy rolling, self-righteous Christian folk who can't laugh, who can't take a joke. Because here's the thing that bothers me about that.
You seem to be bothered by lots of things.
You know why? Because people make life complicated, and life's not that fucking complicated.
Then why does it matter to you?
What?
Why do you get bothered by it if it doesn't?
I don't know. Ask God, why do I get bothered by it? I'm the one that I don't want to be bothered by it. If it was up to me,
it is up to you.
No. Because apparently everybody else that God called didn't want it, and it wasn't up to them either. I don't want this burden of dealing with people.
Oh, that's funny.
But apparently, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Is it though?
You know what?
I told you this was the last episode.
But, you know, it kills me when people say, in one breath, God is everything. Mm-hmm. God created everything. Mm-hmm. And then the second breath go, that ain't God. Wait a minute. I'm confused. Either God is everything or God is not everything.
Interesting.
Everything is everything.
Well, here's the thing that shows up for me in that whole thing. Because I can think of things scripturally where God doesn't have... Now, again, this is human understanding. Okay, so... And this is a distinction that I think a lot of people miss, is that we're having this human experience, so we have human limitations. We have the limitations of how our brain works. We have the limitations of the environment we're in. We have all kinds of limitations in this condition.
The physical.
Yes.
Not in the spiritual.
That's correct. However, we need to learn how to unlock those spiritual lack of limitations because we're having a physical experience. And our conditioning is that we're physical beings having a spiritual experience when it's actually the opposite of that.
Correct.
However, in most cases, with the limitations that we have on our capacity to understand things in the physical human condition, we don't have the ability to grasp the full aspect of who God is, or the depth of the wisdom and knowledge and all the things. Like, we have, just very simple example, we have zero clue on how the universe was stitched together, on how it came to be. Now, we make a lot of observations, and there's a lot of very smart scientists and mathematicians and physicists and every kind of science that makes observations of the physical space that has formulas, and there's a lot of things that they're like, oh, this is kind of how this works, and this is this, and this is that. But in the grand scheme of things, we have no clue. All the things that are ideas on how the universe was created are all theories. Right? The Big Bang Theory. There's and a number of others, but they're theories, meaning they can't prove it. There's no observable, because they weren't there in the beginning before whatever there was, if there was, when it came into an existence. We were still figuring out how to hit people over the head with a stick and survive being chased by a dinosaur or something like that. So what's interesting to me is that there's this chase. There's this constant chase of, oh, we want to figure this thing out. We want to we're chasing all of these theories, and yet we're learning things now that debunk a lot of those theories. There's things that are unfolding that don't make sense. And it's like, well, for us to try to say in this condition that we can fully grasp all that there is to know, that's the epitome of arrogance to me.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah, and that's my take on what I've experienced, what I've studied, what I've been in my own spiritual journey, and what that looks like in the things that I've experienced both spiritually and physically, mentally, emotionally, and everything in between. And at one point, because I spent over a decade studying just the Holy Spirit and the aspects of the Holy Spirit, because I wanted to have a better relationship and understanding. And a lot of that doesn't come from a book. A lot of it doesn't come from writings. It doesn't come from there's intuition, and there's promptings, and there's things, there's experiences that we have that are really inexplicable, and words are insufficient to describe these things that are happening and these experiences. What I came to after a decade of that kind of study in meditation and research and in that journey was that to grasp the full aspect of who God is and the full power and wisdom and the full aspect of love and forgiveness, I was like, I don't have the capacity to do that. It was very humbling, and it was like, I need to take the humble position of, in this physical condition, there are limitations, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the fact that in this time and space, in this spacesuit, as you've referred to in the past. I don't have the processing power to grasp the full aspect of the designer, creator,
Okay.
God.
So let me provide a little pushback.
Yeah, that's what you do.
I know. Number one, I was fucking talking about just having a sense of humor. And you went all the way off
I
the
mean,
fucking
I don't know
deep
where
end.
it just
I literally
came
was
out.
just talking about
Yeah.
having a sense of humor. But anyway.
And it applies
I
to
digress.
that too,
But-
though.
but yeah.
It does apply to that too, because think about it this way: is that the full scope of, like, I 100% agree with you that God created. That's a whole nother sense of humor and I think he's laughing and having a great time most of the time, and we get that from the creator by design. But I think there's things that he's laughing about that we have no clue. And then once we transition out of this existence,
Yeah.
we'll get to enjoy those things too.
But the prompt or whatever it is that I brought up was either God is everything
Yeah,
or he's not.
right.
Everything and not is like either pregnant or not pregnant. You can't
Yeah.
be kind of pregnant.
Well, and
What I'm saying is everything that exists in the universe, including us, is God. Everything. So if it's here, if it exists, it's God.
well, and I think that's an oversimplification.
How could it be?
Well,
Because either God did not create
Because-
everything or God did.
because scripturally, God can
Then
have.
what is the other? Hold on, but then what is the other entity that created the thing that you're saying God didn't create?
Well, no. See, that's the thing is that there are aspects of that we're not going to be able to understand. It's beyond our ability to understand, which is where I was going with all of that earlier. Scripturally, it says God can have no part of sin or evil, right? Because that's the antithesis of who God is, right? That was, if you want to go back to the fall of man in the story of Adam and Eve, and it was the deception of Eve, and then Eve giving Adam the fruit to eat, right? And it was the fruit of what?
Knowledge.
The tree of the knowledge of good and evil, right? And then God said, "You're not you can't eat from." That was the only tree that we weren't allowed to eat from in
Fear.
the garden. That was the
Let's just call it fear, because it's either love or fear. See, I think good and evil has been manipulated into a fucking boogeyman story to scare the shit out of people.
Well,
no. Let you talk. Let me talk.
I wasn't finished, but okay.
You finished. Let me
Oh,
talk.
am I now? Again, this is the last episode of the glue.
No.
Whatever this glue thing is.
No, because
And hopefully I'll get the cameras turned off so there's no evidence of me really stabbing you in the neck.
this is what happens when we don't get together for a few weeks. It's a lot that's built up. It's a lot that's built up when we don't get together. So,
Did you see my imagination? Never mind.
So fear, the spirit of fear. Let me tell you the philosophy I'm coming from. The premise that I'm coming from is that God wanted to experience himself. I'm perfect. I've always been perfect. I always will be perfect. But I'm curious to experience myself, to see how awesome I am. So in order to experience who I am, if it was scientists, right? In a integral study, I also need to create everything I'm not and allow both to exist at the same time. So I am love. I am peace. I am joy. I am goodness. I am faithfulness. I am self-control. That is everything I am. Now, in order for me,
you're going to leave self-control in there.
I got self-control. I ain't punched you in the fucking face yet. That's self-control.
Did you hear that? Yet. We're going to underscore that. There will be a tussle at the end of this if you keep watching. And I got a certain set of skills.
It's called old man scrumph. So I want to experience all that I am. But in order to do that, I have to judge it up against something. That's the whole purpose of the law of polarity. I can't know day without night. I can't know hot without cold. I can't know up if I don't know down, left if I don't know right. Everything has to be in relation. So I can't know love, that I am love, if I also don't create fear. The spirit of fear. It's not who I am.
So you're saying fear is the antithesis of love.
Fear is the antithesis of love.
I'm going to push back on that.
Okay.
Apathy is the antithesis of love, not fear.
Please explain.
Fear, there's an energy that fear is, right? And there's an energy that love is. But if I'm afraid that you're going to jump out of the seat and try and
see, I don't see that's fear.
Me.
That's instinct. That's not fear. That's instinct.
Well, I'm not afraid of that anyway, just so you know.
Don't be afraid, because I'm not going to do it in your face anyway. I'm going to catch you when you ain't looking.
That's right.
I'm going to sneak up in you after dark.
Yeah.
But I don't think that is fear. That's instinct.
No, but what I'm saying is that fear takes, there's a care behind it. There's an energy behind it. And love has an energy behind it. So love and fear aren't the opposite of one another. Love and apathy are the polar opposite of one another, because love is caring.
What's the definition of apathy?
Not caring about anything.
Lack of interest, enthusiasm, or concern.
Yep, it's and I know, because I lived in a state of apathy for a long time. And I didn't care. I had no fear. It didn't matter if I lived or died. I was truly...
See, but I see that as the opposite of purpose, not the opposite of love.
I mean, I can aimlessly be walking around and still want to live and still want to experience things, but I may not have a purpose. The purity of love is caring 100%. Like I'm willing to lay down my life for, say, your daughter, for example. The love that you have for your daughter is palpable, yes?
What does palpable? Why you keep using college words? Why you can't speak like the fucking rest of us? Why do people always try to sound smart?
I'm not trying to sound smart if I know a word that makes sense, that fits, just because I have a mastery of the English language.
Do sixth graders know palpable? Because sixth graders listen to this podcast.
Palpable is, I mean, if sixth graders are listening to this podcast, they need better parenting, because your language is not appropriate for sixth graders.
Oh my gosh. You know what? I am going to, for all of you that are listening right now, they got a problem with my language. First of all, I don't give a fuck. Second of all, go on Netflix, watch the docuseries history of curse words and then come back at me with I got a problem, because most of y'all they got a problem with my language, only got a problem with it because your fucking mama told you that it was a bad word. Why don't you go look up the history of the words and then realize that somebody decided one day we shouldn't say these words, so somebody fucking made up the goddamn word, and then another motherfucker said we shouldn't say that word, and now all of a sudden it's bad to say the word and we gonna go to hell for saying the word. Well, guess what? You go to hell for judging me for saying some shit that was made up in the first place.
We're gonna rename this podcast "Steve Turned Up."
This episode, I'm turned up.
He on tilt today.
Today, I'm on tilt. On this episode, I'm on tilt. Because you know what? I'm tired.
What are you tired of?
I am tired because my life works for me. It ain't gotta work for you.
Why does that make you tired?
Because I have been nice but not kind. Let me explain. And I'm saying especially to myself. So a couple of weeks ago, I did a Facebook Live where I talked about this emotional scale. And I usually write this out for my clients when I'm taking them through a breakthrough session in forgiveness and their parents. And I draw this line on a piece of paper, and on one end I put -10, then -5, and then 0 in the middle, and then +5, +10. And this is just like emotionally. I'm at a -10 or +10 and everywhere in between. Mm-hmm. And I talk about how most of our parents, a lot of our parents were born at a -10 emotionally.
Wait.
Not born, raised.
Okay.
Yeah, in a -10 environment.
You got me tweaked a little bit on the born part. I was like, wait a minute.
Well,
yeah,
then
but the environment.
But if you throw in epigenetics, that actually has a thing. But my point is that especially because before the 1980s, talking about your feelings was not a thing.
Yeah.
So most people were quietly suffering.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And on level 10 depressed, but not showing it in public.
Right.
That's one. There was also no therapy. People thought shrinks were a bad thing.
Oh, well, sure. I mean, the whole state of the mental health industry.
It was trash.
The mental hospitals were shutting down. They were being defunded, and they were just putting people that needed serious help out on the street.
Right. Thanks, Ronald Reagan. So
it was even before him that was happening.
So my point with that is that without coaching, without counseling, without any of that, some of our parents were able to make it to -5 before we were born. Mm-hmm. And we get pissed off at them for not being at a +5 or a +10 when we were born emotionally, right? What I was explaining in that video was most people in their lifetime will maybe make it one notch, -10 to -10 to -5, -5 to 0, maybe 0 to +5. But more than likely, most people will stay in between -10 and 0 because something happens, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay? Very few people have ever gone from -10 to +10 in a single lifetime.
I mean, that's a big jump.
That's a huge jump.
That's a lot of work.
We're talking about your Oprah Winfrey's. We're talking about like my friends D.B. Bedford. We're talking about people like your wife. Very few people have gone from -10 to +10, which is what makes them so inspirational. Because we're talking about people who came from.
Well, I mean, you went from
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. That's where I was going with this. I've actually done that jump from -10 to +10 in this example.
Today you're kind of maybe
no, I'm still at +10, just annoyed.
That's the difference. What do you guys think?
No, just you annoy me. Don't trigger me, you just annoy me. So there's a difference.
I'm like the stone in his shoe. Just can't get it out.
But very few people have gone from -10 to +10. And the reason why I even brought this up was because I told a guy who I'm close with, I said, listen, bro, struggling is not necessary emotionally. You don't have to struggle emotionally. You just believe you have to struggle emotionally, which is why you struggle emotionally. I said, I don't struggle emotionally because I don't believe that emotional struggle is necessary. I know I could be completely trigger free.
Yeah.
Right?
As long as I don't exist.
That's not trigger. That's annoyance. That's different. And it's funny because I was talking to Lynetta about this earlier. And I said, because she was like, what's the difference between, how do you know if you're being triggered or just annoyed? Right? Because we were talking about family stuff. And I said, trigger means there's something unhealed inside of me that needs to be dealt with. Annoyance is just my values are being violated. That's my standard of living is just being violated. So my standard mode of operation is being violated at the moment. But I digress. My point is that me being nice and not kind was when I say I know I'm right, for me, is because I've done the journey from -10 to +10. I know what it takes. I know what has to be let go of. I know what philosophies need to be adopted or belief systems that need to be adopted or what to get to this +10 emotionally. And what I've done, and I'm not doing it anymore, is I've allowed people to question what I know to be true because I'm here. I'm living it. It is not theory. My relationship with my wife really is this fucking good.
Yeah.
My relationship with my kids, this good. My relationship with my parents, this good. The peace, the joy, the love that exists inside of me really is this good. It really is this high. And people who are still struggling try to tell me that what I'm feeling, I'm not feeling. What I'm experiencing, I'm not experiencing because they don't experience it.
Yeah.
So they're just like, I don't understand how you could be at such a perfect level of existence emotionally.
Right. Yeah.
If I'm not there.
That's a problem. Nobody should tell anybody how they should.
And then they go, well, Paul and Romans, I'm like, Paul is fucking wrong too. No, let me tell you why. Because they're like, well, Paul struggled with the flesh and this, that, and the other. That's because Paul didn't fucking know how the flesh worked. Let's be honest. Paul didn't have neuroscience. Paul did not understand the human belief system. Paul did not understand epigenetics. Paul did not understand how the physical worked. But it has been 3,000 fucking years. We have all of this, whatever. We have all of this technology of understanding how the flesh works, how the human mind works, how the intellectual body works. They didn't have that back then, so they did the best with what they could. But to now advance to who we are, I know how the belief system works. I know how I get triggered. I know what a trigger looks like. I know how to get rid of the trigger. We have now new technologies mentally to have the forgiveness process and everything else. I know how to control the flesh. So no, I'm not taking Paul's experience over mine because Paul didn't have the education that I have now. I get to learn from Paul's experience, but to then say, well, Paul struggled with the human flesh, so that means we all struggle when we don't know how it works.
Yeah, I think nobody can tell you how you feel. And I don't, even if somebody's triggered or if they're struggling or whatever, no one can tell you how you feel. And anybody that's trying to do that is really not doing themselves or the person that they're talking to any service. If you are feeling a level 10 from an emotional standpoint and you're feeling all these things, that's fantastic. And that's your reality that you're experiencing. And regardless of what somebody else has to say about it, that's your journey and that's your reality. Now, there are many layers and nuances to, and we're just talking about emotion, right? We're talking about how you're feeling. And like you said, like we've got a lot of different understandings in science and different things that have informed how things work. One of the problems that I have with a lot of different modalities in science and in the medical field and all that type of thing is that systemically we've treated things in a very vertically siloed way, in a very narrow, very myopic approach. Like, oh, you have a cut, so we're just going to put a Band-Aid on that, or we're going to stitch it up, and then that's going to be that. Now, that is a very simplistic example of that, but what about you have a mental health condition, right? Okay, well, we're going to treat the symptoms of the mental health condition. I've got this medication that you take this pill, and it's going to help you. It's going to help you not be anxious, and it's going to help you just kind of chill and just, you take a Valium or whatever, and it's going to make you relaxed for a period of time. But that's a very myopic, very siloed treatment of one aspect of what's showing up. And we're not siloed, myopic beings. We have a lot of different nuances and layers too. It's not just the emotional, right? There's a mental layer, there's this thought layer, there's the spiritual layer. And a lot of treatments don't take a holistic approach. And a lot of things that we're doing, we don't take a holistic approach, right? Environment. I just saw this video from Simon Sinek, and I just came from this...
Cynic, man.
Cynic, whatever.
Sinek.
That's
like people who take my name, Bacon, and say Bacon.
That's
I've
right.
literally had Bastion. I've had Bastion.
Oh, I'm calling you Bacon from now on.
I've had Bacon, Bastion. It's fucking Bacon. It's Cynic. Simon Sinek.
Sinek.
What's the extra?
Okay, and what's Ben, the actor's name that has played Batman and Daredevil, and what's his last name? How do you say his name?
What? Ben Affleck.
Affleck? Like Affleck, the duck with the friggin' insurance? Really? Ben Affleck? Is it Affleck? What is it? Ben, let us know what it is. Because he don't know. Anyway, I saw this video with Simon in it, and he was talking about environment, right? And it's how important the environment that we're in is. And there's been many studies that you take somebody that has a good character and that is contributing to society in a great way and is behaving in a way that's beneficial to those around them, and you take them and you put them in a bad environment, and then they start doing things that are destructive. And then the reverse is also true. You take someone out of a destructive environment with destructive behaviors and you put them in a better environment, and then they start behaving in a way that isn't destructive.
But we're talking about unconscious, asleep people. We're not talking about conscious masters
who understand that. He wasn't talking about what I'm saying is that's an aspect.
It is an aspect. It's an aspect.
Man, you are turned today.
I am. I so am. I had a guy come up to me and say, Steve, the reason why I believe that a man should be with multiple women. He didn't say why he believed. He was just like, I'm the guy that doesn't believe in monogamy. I believe in, multiple, having multiple polygamy. I believe in polygamy. And he's like, I read a study that showed that this many percentage of men also believe that. And I said, I said, well, I said, I want you to understand something though. I said, studies are confirming the effect, not the cause. I said, you're reading about a bunch of people who believe the same thing you believe. Mm-hmm. It doesn't say anything about why y'all actually believe that. It's just giving you a measure of how many people are in the same category as you. I said, now, if you came to me and said you believe in polygamy and you stood on your reasoning of bam, bam, you gave me a 3.5 point as to the foundation, or fucking 1 point as to the foundation of that belief, I'm going to leave you the fuck alone. If that works for you, I'm going to leave you alone. But you're coming to me as your evidence with this many other dudes, and none of y'all fucking know why. I'm not saying none. You don't. Yeah. You don't even know why. Yeah. So the reason why I'm saying with Simon Sinek and all that, and environment, he's right.
Is it Sinek?
He's right. Environment plays a role. Yeah. But it also is because when you don't know how the flesh works, you're easily influenced and you're asleep. You don't even know why it's happening. Well, you're just reacting.
Thing. And that's the thing, is this guy, in your example, this guy that believes in polygamy, he doesn't believe in polygamy. He wants to believe in that. And so he's looking for...
He just want to fuck what he want to fuck.
Exactly. Well, and he's looking he's looking for evidence to support what he wants.
Exactly.
And that's what, in the human condition, if we want to do something or if we want to believe something, we're going to look for evidence to support that. Good or bad, right or wrong, whatever. And those things are relative in a lot of different areas. However, that's the human condition. The human condition is I'm going to look for the things that support what I believe.
Because we don't know,
or what I want to believe.
They don't know how the human belief system works. Yeah. So if you don't know how the very thing that controls you works, then the thing that controls you and you don't control it. Yeah. And then the people who know how it works will manipulate you and control it. We just watched this docuseries called Dancing for the Devil, the TikTok cult.
The TikTok cult.
Bro. Oh my God. If you haven't watched this,
no.
It's these famous TikTok dancers that have millions of followers were all in the cult. And it was this little church called Shekinah, something like that. Shekinah, I think it's Shekinah Church in LA by this Asian dude, Robert something. And he was one of those hellfire damnation preachers who started a cult, didn't call it a cult, whatever, but then recruited these young kids into his church and then found out how many millions of followers they have, in the dancing community, and then created a management company to manage their contracts and finances, and then basically just
took all their money,
cut them off from their families. Wow. Told them that they were going to hell, started sexually abusing them and this, that, and the other.
And they were young, they were idealistic, and they were impressionable.
Absolutely. My point is, he understood how the belief system works. Yeah. He understood exactly what they needed to hear. Yeah. He understood exactly how to manipulate their vulnerability. And when you do not know how your belief system works, it is how you get manipulated, bamboozled, and ran amok.
Now who's using college words?
These aren't college words. What
the hell's bamboozled mean?
These are old school black civil rights Malcolm X words. Okay. You've been hoodwinked, swindled, bamboozled, and run amok.
No, I don't. Malcolm X never using the word bamboozled. He might use
really?
He might have used swindled and pimped, but not bamboozled.
No. See, you don't know nothing because you're a colonizer. So now what?
Oh, here we go.
Oh man.
Well, the colonizers established the colleges.
Oh God.
Where do you think education come from?
The education you get ain't no education. You get memorization.
That's funny.
Anyway,
that's funny. But yeah, so there's something that I think is really important. As we turn down the turnt a little bit, and
don't turn me down,
and give the people some meat and potatoes here, because
I've been giving straight filet mignon. What are you talking about? and sweet potato fries. What are you talking about?
But seriously, I think the thing that you're touching on is a massive thing that people need to be, and specifically younger people need to be aware of, is you're coming out of high school, you're 17, 18, you're going into college, you have these ideals of you're chasing this career, you're chasing the bag, you're chasing significance, making a difference, changing the world. There's a lot of things that when you're younger, you're idealistic. You're like, okay, you got all this energy. But along with a lot of that energy is, there's a lot of zeal, but there's a lack of understanding. And that's how, in this case, this guy manipulates these kids, right? They're probably in their teens or early 20s, and feeds them whatever flavor of religion that he's feeding them, but he's also feeding them like, hey, I can help you level up. I can help handle all the business structure, management, whatever, and provide a more solid business foundation, which all they knew is they got really popular doing some silly dances on TikTok. And now all of a sudden they're an influencer and they don't really have mentorship.
That's disrespectful to call them silly. These were incredible dancers. Just to call them silly. I'm just saying, they would be offended.
Okay,
they would be offended.
Don't get hung up on the, don't get triggered by some little, that's not
I'm sorry,
what
please
saying.
finish.
But that is a massive thing that people, young people in particular, need to be aware of. Like, do some meditation, do some self-awareness work, get in the space of understanding how belief systems work, and have some checks and balances in that. Like, my wife and I, we were in a similar scenario when we were young, and we were young and ideal and wanted to change the world. And we got kind of scooped up in this certain particular religious environment, and there are good things about it, but there are also things where we were naive and we didn't know. Mm-hmm. And we've had to go through seasons of deconstructing and reconstructing our faith based on more experience, based on more study, and based on a lot of different aspects of things that we've walked through from all kinds of different places. And I think if people are listening and they get that, that's gold right there. Because then you can go, oh, and it can happen in any environment. It's not just a religious environment. It can happen in a personal development environment. It can happen in a scientific environment where you get all caught up in the one thing, in this one way of believing something.
For sure.
And not considering, see, that's the thing that I love the space that we're in now is that I'm not so hard and fast on the dogma and the legalism, because that doesn't serve anyone. I'm hard and fast on principles, right? The principles of love, kindness, forgiveness, gentleness, self-control, these types of things that I'm definitely hard and fast on. However, those show up in different ways because we're dynamic beings, right? We have a mental condition, we have an emotional condition, we have a physical condition, we have a spiritual condition. And there's other layers to our existence that, quite honestly, we're still discovering. And as we continue to learn and experience and digest things, we need to construct and then deconstruct and then reconstruct again. And it's like, if we can get down to the purest form of the principle-based things and remove all the other garbage that gets attached to it that persuades people one way or another, then I think the world can be a place that everybody would want to live in. But not everybody wants to live in this place, sadly. I mean, you got 4,000 medical professionals committing suicide every year. 4,000 in the medical field that serve other people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of layers to that I'm not going to go into. But it's like, wait, what? Suicide rate for our youth is an epidemic.
Okay. Well,
right?
I
why?
All right. I'll give you a oversimplistic but really deep explanation. So I had a family contact me about their 19-year-old who has always been sort of an overachiever type. First year in college, and just like thinking about checking out. Just overwhelmed, right? Yeah. Now, granted, this is coming from lived experience, not just theory, because I had to figure out why I wanted to commit suicide. So I explained it this way. I said, oh, no problem. I could definitely help your daughter. It's just a misunderstanding. And they were like, what? I was like, her wanting to commit suicide it's all a big misunderstanding. She doesn't know how her mind works. Mm-hmm. And the parent asked me to explain. I said, remember when we were kids and you play video games and you be either playing your cousin or your friend or your brother, or you're playing the computer and you keep getting your ass whooped? And remember when you was playing with your cousin or your friend and they talking shit while they kicking your ass and you can't figure out how to beat them? And eventually you get so mad, what do we all do?
Throw the controller at them.
Either throw the controller. See, you violent.
Whack.
We want to what? Unplug the controller.
Yeah.
Turn the game off.
Yep. Take
right?
the ball. Go home.
Go home. Right.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I said, because part of the subconscious mind's job is to look for the path of least resistance. Mm-hmm. And when you getting your ass handed to you and you can't figure out a way out, subconscious mind goes, ooh, I got an idea. Kill yourself. That's the fastest way to end this pain right now. It's not that you don't want to live. It's that the way you're living, you can't find a way out of it.
Yeah, and that's a very permanent solution for a temporary problem.
Exactly. But it's just that you can't find a way out of it. So it's not a thing of value. It's frustration built to the highest level.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And your mind is going, ooh, I know how to solve this. If you just take yourself out the game, you won't have to worry about it no more. And the people who actually follow through, like me, the people who actually follow through believe that thought. But it's also because I didn't know that I wasn't my thought.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's, again, not understanding how the flesh works that makes it so hard to live a peaceful, joyful, abundant experience.
Yeah. And
You
what
can't-
did they say to that?
Huh?
What did they say to that?
He was like, the dad was like, that actually makes sense. Yeah, I know.
Because you lived it.
I lived it.
Yeah.
But it also makes sense to the person hearing it.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, wait, no, yeah, I don't want to die. I'm frustrated as fuck.
Right.
And the future just looks more like of what I'm getting.
Right.
And I don't want to deal with that.
And it is because those are the stories that they're telling
Right.
themselves. And the more they tell themselves that story, the more they're going to get that same result.
Because I don't know how my beliefs work. So I'm seeding, right? You reap what you sow.
Right.
So I'm seeding beliefs of, pain and frustration and all that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking thoughts of pain and frustration. I'm feeling emotions of pain and frustration. And then my action is only producing more pain and frustration, which results in more pain and frustration, which you don't know how your fucking mind works.
Well, here's a powerful distinction that Chris Smith talked about at this event that we were just at. And it was the thinking about what you don't want. And he did this exercise. He goes, write down what you don't want. Like, just write it down. Like, take a minute, write down the things that you don't want. Right? Like, well, I don't want to go bankrupt. I don't want to lose my house. I don't want to this. I don't want to that. I don't want to lose my relationship. What do you think happens when you're thinking about what you don't want? Because the subconscious doesn't know, don't. And you're thinking about the thing that you don't want. What are you going to get more of? That thing. Because you're programming what you're looking for.
Right.
You're programming what your mind, and he gives some really powerful examples. He goes, now think about what you do want. And part of the exercise was he had you write down the thing and then turn and share it with the person next to you. And the energy, and I'm just talking about the vibrational energy of people's beings doing this exercise. When people shared what they didn't want, it was like this. You could feel this negative energy in the room. Like it was, it was tangible. And then he followed that up with doing an exercise of what you want. And it was so much lighter and such a higher vibration, and people were smiling. And it was you could feel the shift of the room, the environment of the room shifted, and you could feel it. It was crazy. But it's that same thing, right? It's, if you continue to think about, oh, I'm depressed, oh, I don't feel good, oh, or this or that, guess what you're going to get more of? You're going to get more of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you get in this cycle of this thought, and the thought is what's going to start to create your beliefs, and your beliefs are going to start to create what actually unfolds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I have recorded this remembrance. I'm going to stop saying downloads. I don't get downloads. I remember things.
Okay.
And the reason being is because the spirit is connected to everything. Which means, again, coming from my premise that my Father, God, wants to experience who he is through us. But in order to make that an authentic experience, we had to forget.
Well, yeah, there's a guy when when we make the transition to being born is supposed to push the forget button.
Right. We have to forget.
There's been a few people that squeaked through where he was on a coffee break or something.
Right. They came in knowing.
There was some, wait, what? Yeah.
But we have to forget. It's the difference between, like, if Matt Damon decides he wants to play a homeless guy and to study for the character, he's going to go be homeless for a year. Now, it's a different experience if he's rich playing a homeless guy.
Yeah.
Because when the hardships come, he just goes, oh, I mean, I'm just playing a role. So this is not going to last long. It's all good, right? Versus him having his memory wiped and waking up on the street.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a completely different experience.
Sure, yeah.
So in order for God to authentically experience himself through us, we had to have our memories wiped coming into this planet. Because then we would have to, because then it wouldn't be an authentic experience. Now, we remember who we are, and now we're Matt Damon playing the homeless guy.
That's an interesting analogy.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a journey of remembrance.
Yeah.
I'm seeking to remember who I am. So where I'm going with this. God said his name was I am. And then he said there shall be no other God before me. So if God's name is I am.
Or after me.
Yeah, yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. So if God says his name was I am, and there shall be no other God before him or after him, but the name is I am. So when we say I am, we're invoking God.
Yeah.
Okay. Wealthy. I am wealthy. I'm invoking that creation, that state of being that then gives me a vibrational state that attracts everything on that physical equivalent. Well, it also works with I am depressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a vibrational state.
Right.
That then attracts everything to through its physical equivalent.
You're going to get more of that.
You're going to get more of that.
Yeah.
I said all that to prove what you're saying, but I'm just giving a different angle.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah.
It's the same thing, just giving a different angle. That I am, because I used to I ask, how can I say I am rich and then money show up? Okay, I am rich. And then I'm looking for the money to show up on my table.
Except the money didn't show up. What happened was all of a sudden on your birth certificate, your name changed to Richard. Damn it, that's not what I meant.
Right. You got to be specific.
That's right. You do.
But rich
specificity is a thing.
Is a vibrational state of being. It's a certain frequency that then allows the universe, the interactive playground. That's a whole nother, I got something else to say about that, but that's next episode. That allows the universe to then reconstruct everything to provide you with the experiences, options, and opportunities to attract that vibration of rich and wealthy into your life. You just have to concentrate on that thought of being rich or wealthy and rebuke all fear, rebuke all negative thinking, rebuke all the things that take you off the concentration of that.
Yeah, and I think there's like what we were talking about earlier, there's layers to that. It's not just an affirmation that you say.
No,
and it happens.
It's not. I'm not saying it's just an affirmation.
Yeah, but I'm just sharing this.
Okay, for them,
people that are listening. It's not.
Yeah.
Come on, man. I know you know.
I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just convinced.
but it's not that myopic, siloed, vertical aspect, right? It's not just creating this thought and then saying these affirmations and then this thing is going to happen. It's like you are committed to it. It's like, take a look around. It's like there's people living different types of lives. Why is that? You brought up Matt Damon earlier. Is Matt Damon any different than anyone else physically? No. He's a human with the same human condition coming out of Boston that a bunch of kids out of Boston have. But why does Matt Damon ascend into, Hollywood greatness and these other kids don't? Because of what he believed and his commitment to that belief.
Mm-hmm.
And then he put in the work and kept striving. He's like, he believed that thing. So he's going to keep going towards that thing. He's going to write.
Yeah, that commitment rebuked everything else that wasn't that.
Exactly. And so there's nuance to it that I think a lot of people miss. Right there, because a lot of people go, oh, okay, cool. If I just, and I've heard that over and over and over again. If I have these thoughts, and then I can create different thoughts, and I can create a different story, and if I just say this thing, and then it's no. There's more. There's more substance and more layers to it, and it's more dynamic than just simply this positive affirmation. And that's what people need to understand. Like, do the work. That's a big one.
Oh.
People just don't do the work. They refuse.
Bro, I was at a men's group, and they were talking about marriage. Because this is to back up exactly what you're saying. And it's so funny. And they were talking about marriage. And somehow we got on triggers. And I said, look, guys, I got to go. But before I go, let me give you my 2 cents, right?
It's $1.99 now because of inflation. So.
Right. Let me give you my $1.99 right quick. I said, I used to try to train my wife on how not to step on my triggers. And it would cause a lot of arguments. I said, and then I asked myself a simple question, because suffering is unnecessary.
Yeah.
I want you to write that down wherever you at. Suffering is unnecessary. It's necessary until you recognize it's not necessary. You suffer enough to the point where you recognize it's not necessary to suffer, and then suffering's not necessary.
I'd love to unpack. We need to do a podcast on suffering.
Okay, cool.
So
let's do that next episode. But I started asking myself, wait, what if I just didn't have any triggers?
You said that? You said
I said
words?
that. I said those words. I said those words. When I asked myself, wait, if I stop making my wife my problem and start making her what she is, my mirror.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because every time something happens inside of me that I'm upset about or angry about or depressed about, that's something going on inside of me. So instead of me teaching her how to avoid my landmines, my emotional landmines, what if I just got rid of my emotional landmines? Then there's nothing for her to step on, and then we could just be cool.
How about that? Catch me outside.
One guy goes, but that takes accountability and responsibility. Ain't nobody trying to do all that.
Ooh, yeah.
And everybody starts laughing.
That's the word.
And everybody starts laughing. And I said, but in that is truth.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to do the work.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You just want to complain.
Right. Yeah. You
and
want
get somebody else to,
you.
yes.
You want somebody to go, oh,
right.
Okay. You're okay.
Right.
You'll be fine. That helps no one.
But then wonder why you could never experience the fruit of the Spirit.
Yeah.
And we have to do a whole episode on just the fruit of the Spirit alone. Or a series. That's a series.
One on each element of
we have to because it's not that hard. It's not easy in a sense that you've got a lot of work you have to do on yourself. But once you've done that work, it's quite easy.
Yeah. It's simple
to live the Spirit, to live by Spirit when you've done the work.
Yeah.
But as long as you haven't done the work, it is extremely difficult and it is a lifetime struggle and you will suffer. The whole point of me saying that whole suffering piece was when you live by the Spirit, there is no suffering.
Yeah, and you need to go, and this kind of comes full circle too, right? Because the people that aren't doing the work or they're not willing to do the work, they're surrounding themselves with people that are like coddling them.
Right.
Like, oh, it's okay.
And other motherfuckers who don't want to do the work.
And you know why those people are coddling them? Because they don't want to do the work.
Exactly.
And then it's like, okay, well, we can not do the work together
Right.
and make each other feel good
We'll
about
circle
not
jerk
doing
each
the
other
work.
to misery.
Exactly. And then, I mean, not the mental picture that I was trying to paint.
I don't give. Listen, whatever will stick in your brain.
Yeah. But the idea is that find a new environment. Find an environment where you're with people that are willing to challenge you and willing to call you on your BS.
Right.
And they're willing to say, no, you need to do the work and stop blaming your wife and clean out your own mess so that you can have a better situation.
You know, before we close out, you want to know why I like to trigger people like that? Why I say that? Why I talk the way I do? I just realized it right now. I just realized it right now.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
No.
I just realized it right now.
On that because you've known this for a long time.
Okay, let's agree to disagree. I just figured it out right now. You know why I talk this way? And I say, and I give the examples I give, and some of them are raunchy, and some of them are vulgar, and some of them are because you won't forget it.
Exactly.
Saying it the nice way.
You didn't just realize that right now.
I did.
Nobody's going to believe.
I did. I'm looking at the camera.
No one believes
this is an epiphany.
No one believes this.
Listen.
Lies.
You won't forget it.
Lies.
When I say circle jerk each other to misery, you won't forget that. Whether you thought it was, but watch this.
Not since you said it
watch
twice.
this. Watch this. Whether you thought it was funny, you won't forget it.
Right.
If you thought it was vulgar,
you won't.
Every time you see me, you won't forget it.
Yeah.
If you thought it was offensive, you won't forget it.
Yeah.
If you thought it was rude or crude, you won't forget it.
Yeah.
If you thought it was spot on, you won't forget it. I talk this way so you don't forget, because apparently the nice way of saying things goes through one ear and out the other. So I'm going to make that shit stick.
And that's the title of this episode. Some sticky-ish right there.
This is some sticky shit. So, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate y'all for being with us for another episode.
The final episode of Self-Mastery Sunday.
If we are not canceled next week, then we will be back here once again talking about self-mastery, God, love, and you the way we want to talk about it. I'm your coach, Steve Bacon, with my main man, the professor of possibility, Eric.
P.O.P. holding it down.
And we will see you next week. Drop a comment.
Drop a deuce.